I'm good.
Okay. All right, Tiger. Mike, that's my chair. Oh.
Gotta bite. I think I got a lot of stress on my mind. It's a nice day to go. Yeah, I gotta learn. I'ma call up the whole team.
How you doing, guys? This is Team Hard Life Captain Albert Substitute here, and I'm sorry, but I forgot your name. And we had a pretty good discussion about
Tommy Sue Arnold.
That's right. So yeah, you were supposed to be a boy,
yeah,
and then you came out a girl. So that okay, awesome. So you reached out to me through Facebook because of the posts that I've been doing with the city council and how I'm trying to get the knowledge that we have learned out to the public, because the city refuses to do that. They refuse to put out the fine print. And basically this is part of that discussion, but again too, it's going to go even further than that, because where do you live at again?
I live in Blunzer.
So that name came up during a desalinization plant that none of us knew about even existed until a few months ago. And we're like, okay, so if they're doing a far-field model for the Inner Harbor desalinization plant, why isn't that desal plant even being discussed? So when you called me, I was like, okay, so like, let me see what she knows, you know, because again, too, a lot of people do call me and you know, thank me for, because it is a sacrifice, guys. Like, I'm risking my livelihood, I'm risking my family, I'm risking everything to save our city. You know, I'm not against desal, but I'm against improperly doing desal, because yes, we do need water. Now, there's a proper way to do things, and if they're not doing it properly, it doesn't matter if you get water, your health is going to be a major factor later on, you know. 5-10 years down the road, you're going to have a third leg grow or something, right. You know what I mean? So, can you tell me some of your history?
Well, I'm grown up here. I can't say I was born here, because my father had a job in Oklahoma. I was conceived here, and then I got here as quick as I could from 1.5 years. So I'm from here. But my family settled here in early 1900s. My husband's family settled starting in the Goliad-Myersville area in the 1820s, and then they made it to Blunzer in 1860, I believe. He's a direct descendant of the Blunzer family. But mainly from the Goliad-Myersville, and then the descendant broke her leg and she couldn't ride the wagon, so they settled there. The rest of them made it down to the Blunzer community as we know it. And I actually live on Blunzer land that we have purchased. So everybody's been doing fine with the water and handling it.
So you're deep rooted. It ain't like most of us that just moved here and are trying to what's the word I'm looking for? Enforce new regulations on this and that of what they think it should be looking like. You know, this is stuff that's been, you were born and raised with this since the early settlers.
They're ignoring the critical for their profit.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
And then on my father's side, they're out of the Alice Binvolt area, and that's where the desalinization plant is in Alice.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that desalination.
I don't know a lot about it, except that they do have their discharge. The reject water goes into a creek, and then that creek is a public waterway, and it does flow, and it ends up that's public waters. And a man that I know has a place there, and in January he went there for his deer, because it's out in the country, and the brine is so bad that there's just salt everywhere on the edges of the shallow creek and the banks, and the water color is practically bronze.
Yeah.
So I have that photo,
and that's the photo you're now seeing here, and this is something that like I had seen on Facebook. Facebook posted it or it got posted, and then I went to lunch or dinner, and I was like, you know what, I need to share that, and I could not find it for the life of me. So
I never knew there was a desalination plant there
Mhm.
until the man posted this picture, and I went, what? So, you know, things happen overnight, and people see what's going on, but they don't look.
yeah,
I mean, if you don't look, but then the other worst part is, even when you look, you cannot find.
yeah, that is bought and well paid for right there. And why do they do that? Why do you think it's a need for them to hide the information?
Sheer profit. You have big and rich entities that want to get bigger and richer, and the powers that be enable it.
Yeah. So this comment's probably gonna piss a lot of people off, but at the same time, I need your understanding.
That's my middle name.
Right, right. So I have a lot of customers, subscribers that work in the refineries. Kudos, you know what I mean? Because even as a young man, you know, hey man, you get into the refineries, you're gonna be taken care of, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and by all means, I am not angry at y'all. We all gotta work, we all have to survive. But it's gotta be done right, you know, and I'm not faulting y'all. This attack is not towards you and your family trying to survive, trying to make a living, and get. I mean, because you sacrifice your time, your birthdays, your holidays. You sacrifice all of this to provide for your family. This is not about you guys. It's about your bosses, the company owners that are forcing you to miss all of this, that are forcing you to sacrifice what they say doesn't even include you. And what I mean by that is, right now, they're wanting this inner harbor desalinization plant. Well, like that company, they did it on their own. They got the permits, and nobody even knew the wiser until things started happening. So with us, they tried this decades ago. They tried to put the desalinization plant for whatever reason. I don't remember the exact one, so I'm not even. Don't even quote me, guys. It didn't work out. Well, years later, our city council is trying to get this inner harbor desalinization plant going. I was thinking the same thing. We do need water. Cool. Until you start reading the fine print. What was it? 15 million gallons was sold to one company. Another 5 million gallons sold to another company. Another 5 million gallons sold to another company. And we're sitting there thinking, I'm like, they ain't even up and running yet, and they've already pre-sold that water. Okay, so I was like, Jesus, this how bad can it get? Oh wait, let's make the taxpayers pay for it. Wait a minute now, guys. Like, you know, these are multi-billion-dollar operations. You can search it. Ask how much. Ask your Google search. How much does the local industries make in profit per year in the city of Corpus? I think it came out to $86 billion. You know, I'm all about people raising up, making money. You know, to provide. Cool. Hey, they found their niche. To kudos. However, when it comes down to, okay, they had to pay I think it was $2.5 billion in all their property taxes. Out of $86 billion in profit, that's less than half a percent. Yeah. And they fought it. They fought the city to reduce their taxes to $998 million. And all of this, if you don't believe me, it's in my YouTube channel already. I've already showed you all the paperwork, the lawsuits, the final judgments and all of that. It's in there. So when I'm telling y'all something, it's because I've seen it. It ain't just, you know, word of mouth. Like everything she's telling me, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look into it some more, because again, we have that obligation. So when you see this video, I want you to do the same thing, because knowledge is power. And if you can't find anything she's talking about, why is that?
Now I have to admit that I'm pro oil and gas, I'm pro refinery, I'm pro progress. There's got to be clean earth with progress, and the progress has to revert back to the clean earth.
Yes.
And so, back 20-something years ago, I'm telling you, I was a chemical, for a chemical treatment company.
I was just about to ask
And these industries wanted desalinization. Now, of course, that didn't go a long ways because it was all in baby steps. But you can't find it anywhere. But their biggest proponent, the biggest opponent, was the city of Corpus Christi, because they didn't want that. They wanted to supply the water to the refineries because Corpus wants the revenue. And they promised them all the water they needed. And I'm sure there was a just sign here. And if I had to guess, it would probably be at least a 30-year contract. I do not know. You can't find it.
That is actually correct.
But
they signed a 30-year contract. 30 years. Now let that sink in, guys, because we have all gone through. I'm 45, so I've been working since I was
3. That was me.
pretty close. I was pretty
Chores
close.
around the house.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Chores, if you want to go that far, yeah, I was about 3 to 4 years old. I can remember cleaning my room, doing this and that, but actually working jobs, I was about 11 or 12. But on my own as a private contractor, going up and picking cans and copper and all of this, I was 9 years old, 8 years old, and you may not believe me, but Generation X is, besides the boomer generation, we were one of the hardest ones because the parents told us, get the hell out of the house.
Yeah. You want something? Earn it.
Yeah, well, it was not only that, but if you were caught in the house, you had to clean the house. You had to do chores. So our what's the word I'm looking for? Our prize for not being in the house was we didn't have to clean as long as we were out. So we didn't even try going in for a glass of water. You got caught getting a glass of water inside the house, it was over. So we learned how to drink from water hoses.
I mowed the lawn and helped my dad cut brush because my sister had to clean out the refrigerator. That was a great trade.
Yeah.
So we worked.
But that was the deal. Like, we learned how to be out on our own, and literally, we were out on the streets. I would take my bike, I would ride it 20 miles to go fishing, and I'm not talking about just one direction. I'm talking fish this spot, move. Like, I used to fish all Ocean Drive from the Harbor Bridge all the way to the Oso on my bike, and not an 18-speed either, a regular single drive. You know what I mean? So for me, growing up here, I have seen, not as much as you, but I have seen how things play out. And when you're sitting there looking at industry, like I said, growing up, man, that was like, you looked forward to, I dropped it, but you looked forward to the possibility that you could work in industry and make a great living for you and your family. That's back when they used to take care of the community. They used to be proactive. They used to help with the schools. They used to help with this. They used to help. Why? Because their big rig trucks tear up the roads, moving asphalt, moving this, moving that, like we don't have. Our vehicles can transfer those same roads 100 times over and not do the amount of damage that these big rigs do. So they did their part. They paid their taxes. They paid their fair share. That at that time, which is now 40-something years ago, what it would be for that. But now you fast forward decade after decade, inflation has gone up, the cost of materials has gone up, the cost of this, but their cost of materials of natural resources have not gone up. But what has gone up is your taxes, my taxes, and your taxes, property taxes, this, that, and yes, you can fight so much and we get reduced $200, and we're like, yes. But at the same time, we're the ones footing the bill for big industries to keep making these billions and billions of dollars off of our area. And for them to pay less than 1% in taxes is not totally uncalled for. It's part of doing business. Take care of, like for me in this shop, like I pay my rent, I pay the light, I don't pay the water because that's part of the agreement here and stuff like that. But I pay my workers, I pay the phone, I pay this, I pay that. But at the same time, I'm a good community partner. I also do my fundraisers where I help out and I do what I can. And that was one of the things that people were saying, well, they donate to this, they donate to that, they don't. Okay, cool, that makes them look good in the light. But in the darkness, that over $2 billion in lost tax revenue affected all the schools. They had to start cutting this, cutting that. Public libraries and stuff like that. And again, there's too many to name, but it's in there. It's in my channel if you just do the homework, and you can look yourself into online deals of things that are closed because they don't have enough funding. So with that being said, you working in the refineries and stuff like that, I did a little bit like security and offshore sandblasting, but I never got the behind the scenes knowledge of behind one of those Connex boxes. So what are they doing in there? So what was your actual job in there with you?
We were a chemical treatment company for on the process and water side, and I was on the process side. So we're talking about the crude units and the terminals, and of course with the terminals you have barges and ships, and we're treating things, and then the blending of the gasoline. So everything that ran in the refinery, we were part of the chemical treatment process to make sure that your gasoline is good, or on the water side that the boilers and the cooling towers and everything maintained within their compliance. But my proponent part of the big industry is because they do provide jobs and they do provide a product we all need.
Yes.
And I do believe, as they are all wanting to do the right thing, it's when you get your individual owners locally that they want to be part of that pie. Okay? And I don't know who owns Harbor Island. Somebody owns Harbor Island, and I'm sure it's an entity, but for every entity there are humans. So just like Inner Harbor, I'm having a real problem with Inner Harbor because I was part of when the blast zones came around, remember? And so these neighborhoods were just said, you have to move. These people that have grown up as children and their grandparents lived there and then they were born, they were said, you have to move. And I want to protect Hillcrest. There's probably only about 80 residents that are still there. No. This is a big deal. And Inner Harbor, they are the affected people because where they are and what is happening right outside their homes. Somebody owns that property that Inner Harbor is happening. So those are the people you need to find out, because my biggest question is, who owns the Gulf? Is there any property, land out in the Gulf that you would have to lease or purchase in order to build a project? You just go out there and you get I would say right now, mobile systems are the thing to do right now. Because if they bring in those mobile systems, I don't care how many, bring in however many you need for your 100 million gallons a day that you need. You got 80 million in the winter and 120 to 100, now it's jumped to 130 in the peak times. Okay, get your mobile systems out there. They're ready to go as a base unit, and then they add the components to those base units based on what the customer needs. Now, Corpus Christi gets the water from the Nueces River, which was when they were they depleted 2 reservoirs.
Yep.
Do you think for a minute they would not deplete Lake Texana if Lake Texana didn't already have the curtailment right for them? It was at 50%, but then Abbott came in and said, oh, so now I think it's at 47%. When the lake gets to 47%, Lake Texana can curtail Corpus based on what they are allowed. But Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon, or Lake Corpus Christi had total control. They literally depleted, and they've been doing that for well over 20 years. When I grew up with a full lake,
Mm.
I grew up with bulkheads and water slapping and piers where the water was right there, and now the water is not, you can't see the water.
Yeah.
And everybody's going, you're destroying my livelihood, you're destroying my property. There is no more Fiesta Marina, there are no more bass tournaments, there's no more anything there because the city has allowed that depletion.
Yes.
You cannot blame the mandatory releases. That's a lazy excuse because that requires one thing, legislation. And right now, again, you're just finding out, oh, it takes Three Rivers, NRA, and Corpus to write a letter to TCEQ and so we don't want that anymore. Okay, now all of a sudden, well then it reverts back. No, you're saying you have a choice. It doesn't have to revert back to the previous one or the previous one. I'm going, why would something revert back to a law, a rule or a mandate that you've already gotten rid of? I mean, that's like me having to go back and wear toddler clothes. What? We've grown past that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you saw me, I wrote the letter, said, let me write the letter for you. Hello, do this. Okay, and then Ms. Villalobos and Mr. Hunter have said they will author and co-author to say, get rid of that ridiculous mandate to release waters from the lake at 30% until it reaches 30%. We need a full lake. That's what the dam is for. The dam is that 94-foot contour level, and once it reaches, there is never flooding up by the lake because it goes over the dam.
Yeah.
And as long as it goes over the dam, it goes through the river.
Naturally, basically.
Yeah, so, I mean, now I'm not saying the river lots won't flood, but then I'm saying it can be controlled flooding, which gets me to the river lots that Corpus Christi bought in 2014. They bought 7 lots. They bought them for a total of $2,409 for unpaid taxes. But you ask, when you look at their well field, locate their eastern well field, there's one little hump and a little cove. One little hump, a little cove, one little hump. Wells, wells, wells. Did they flood those people out on purpose? Because it gets to the point, it got so bad in 2002 that the river flooded so bad, people woke up and they had this stuff all in their yards. It was the Ballard sand pits right there between County Road 73 and County Road 75 and up to the river. It became a Superfund site, which in Superfund site is not, there's a D there, not Superfund, Superfund, which is a toxic waste site because of oil field and oil and gas waste being allowed to be dumped on that 296 acre land. So they've made it a Superfund site. They sent out deed notices. I'm trying to find the deed notices. You have to make an appointment. You have to call the library and ask to see this TCEQ report. And EPA handles the Superfunds, and then they determine, is it still federal or do we turn it over to the state? They turn this Ballard site over to the state. They test biannually. They cleaned out 3 small areas, remediation, cleaned out contaminated dirt, and this is my understanding. Again, it's hard to find the specifics, but from what on phone calls that's been told is that they did a remediation in 3 small pits down to 25 feet, and they only test to 25 feet. So you're testing the replaced dirt. They're not testing down deep into the groundwater, which, and I will send you a picture. You've got 296 acres. the little pit is up here, got another one here and here. All of this over here, you still have this water, which is sludgy, so bad it can have a crust on it. I mean, a horse literally fell through in a rider because she thought it was dirt and the crust broke through. And this was way before the 2002 flood. And now that happens. So now they send out these deed notices, more or less about not being able to drill a well or groundwater or use your water. So is that why those people walked away from their property? Because if it's no use to them and they can't use it, I don't know. We can't find it. And but the city came in and bought 15.6 acres, total of 7 lots for $2,409 of back taxes. That it appears that the county can kind of offer this land to Corpus or other entities before they really go public to sell it on the courthouse steps. It's kind of like, I mean, it's a little variance in their gray area. How did they manage to get all of this or whatever? But, so it averages $314 a lot.
Jeez.
So you have 8 massive wells on 15.68 acres that borders the river, that borders the Ballard Superfund site. And the tests that TCEQ requires Corpus for their bed and banks permit, which in other words, if your water complies with this right here, you can dump your up to 11 million gallons of water a day into the Nueces River. Sulfate, chloride, total dissolved solids, pH and temperature. But you are literally adjacent to a toxic waste site, and you're pumping groundwater from the aquifer.
That is the one that was all over the news where they were testing the dump area and they found all those heavy metal in there, and it's now coming to light. You know, so what we're saying, guys, is not some of it. Yeah, you know, like you said, it's gonna be hard to find, but right now everything is being brought to the surface. Why is it being brought to the surface? Because there's individuals that are out there that are listening to what's going on and actually reading the fine print and paying attention. Hey, this is not good. Like, you know, that movie, Aaron Brockovich, right?
Aaron Brockovich.
You know, made that hexavalent
chromium, chrome 6.
Yes.
Chrome 3, I think it's chrome 3 and 4. They use these chromiums as corrosion inhibitors. And so chrome 3 is not deadly, but it doesn't do as good a job internally for corrosion. So they want to use chrome 6 because it makes their internals more shiny and pretty and less problematic. But then they dump that into the ditch. And they're not. Tesla's permit was does not include hexavalent chromium, arsenic, lithium, strontium, vanadium. Doesn't require any of those. It requires the basic tests that you would probably run on your water. Except I run arsenic on my water now. I send mine off to Texas A&M because I'm going to tell you right now, if you do at-home testing and you find it, they don't care. You need a certified lab, and it costs money. And it costs $85. Some people don't have $85. They're busy trying to pay their water bill.
Have you paid attention to your water bill lately, guys? Yeah, we told you last year that this was going to happen. We told you this. Like, we're not conspiracy theorists. We are legitimately looking at the information that is being handed to us, and we've been posting it for over a year now of what's going to happen, what's coming down the pipeline, and it's here. And you refuse, and there's many that refuse to see it. My biggest thing, or several, One, like the water in Corpus Christi, we've had how many mandates to boil our water? Why is that? We've had how many millions of gallons of water lost? Please, come on, you know where the water goes. Don't tell me you don't know that. That's like telling me, you know, hey, I lost, 30,000 hooks in here. Now, a little more than that too, with the TCEQ, I used to think, well, dude, we got a chance. No, when we had the Inner Harbor Desalinization Plant meeting downtown at the American Bank Center, I actually, when I told them about the brown tide in the Bay of Corpus Christi and the red tide, I wish, I'm telling you, you can go back, the videos, I recorded the video, did it all. I wish the camera had looked at the gentleman when I said that, because they were looking right at me, and literally at both the same time, they looked at each other with deer in the headlight look like, and you can see on their face, like, did you know about this stuff? And I was like, how can you not see that? How can you not know this? But you're in an environmental protection agency. At that point, I knew everything they were telling us was BS. Why? Because they're supposed to be protecting us, yet they don't even know the basic understanding of the Bay of Corpus Christi.
Yeah. Let's go back to the TCEQ permit for Tesla.
By all means, yes.
Because the report said, well, Tesla's in compliance with the permit.
Now, let me expand a little bit with that. The permit, again, entails what they need to check for, what they don't have to check for, and this and that. So this is where the fine print gets you.
Because they're discharge water, which is going into an easement that is owned by Nueces Water and Control and Improvement District Number 2. It's their easement. Well, TCEQ more or less said, well, they said, we didn't even know about this. Well, we don't have to discuss that with you. Well, it's their easement. Well, they allowed Tesla to dump into that ditch, that easement. That ditch water goes to Petronila Creek, and that water goes from Petronila Creek to Baffin Bay. And TCEQ says Tesla's within the confines, and they're compliant with their permit for discharge, because they are only, their testing regimen is only dissolved solids, oil and grease, chlorides, sulfates, temperature, and oxygen.
What it doesn't include is
hexavalent chromium, arsenic, and concentrations of lithium, strontium, and vanadium that were abnormally high compared to levels of regular groundwater and rainwater. So we're going to jump back now to...
Hold on, I need a second. I need just a second to let that kind of sink in. How many anglers do we know that fish Baffin Bay?
My son does.
I could probably name off several hundred like that. How many families, because you're just talking about the fishermen, you're not talking about the families that which they provide the fish for in exchange.
Consume that fish.
They consume that fish.
How many
or
animals
swim,
consume the fish?
Or swim in that area. Or the land animals, because I know a lot of guys, they go hunting and they tell you of how they do it and this. So those animals are consuming that fresh water that's being released there. So they are automatically getting polluted. So it's not just the fish, it's not just the water, it's the land animals as well.
Endangered species, which consists from animals, marine life, to plants, and plants animals eat. The plants are there, absorbs these toxins, animals eat them. You cannot see, smell, or taste arsenic. You can't see, smell, or taste many of heavy metals and really bad things. So, so we're going to go back to that eastern well field, because Nueces Water and Control and Improvement District Number 3 captures their water from the river at or really close to Hazel Baysmore Park. which is County Road 69.
I have played at Hazel Baseball.
Yeah, and we grew up with, the canals are always by there, and now it's now a pipeline that's not open ditches anymore, it's a pipeline. I think it's about a 4.5 mile pipeline that they pump the water out of the Nueces River, send it to their treatment plant, and they supply their areas, their Robstown customers, and they supply River Acres Water Supply, which is an independent water supply that buys their water from Robstown. And in my lifetime, and from what I can find, they have never popped for arsenic. Eastern Wellfield starts pumping legally by permit in August, and they start off slow. I remember they got 8 wells. Not all of them were in service at the time, but they're all going. And they'll pump some, and then they increase the pumps. And you can no longer find this on their report. Now, I am an elderly woman, but I'm not stupid, I'm not senile yet, and I don't have dementia yet. I mean, and I know what I read because I look. And your September, October, November, December reports from CCW to the city would state Eastern Wellfield is pumping at, let's say, 4 million gallons a day. Then it'd be 6 million, and then it'd be 8. Well, and then December and November, December, it was like 10 million. And you see on video, on a news report, that Peter Zanoni is just ecstatic. It's like he just had his first child, that they are pumping 11 million gallons a day now. Well, TCEQ only requires these water treatment plants to test like quarterly. Not every day, but quarterly. And remember that their test for their groundwater wells doesn't include anything but sulfate, chloride, total dissolved solids, pH, and temperature. So Q1 2026, so Q4 2025, Corpus Christi is pumping the living heck out of these groundwater wells, and they are happy about it.
Yeah.
Robstown captures that water from the river 2 miles, about 2 miles downstream from those groundwater pumps. And now all of a sudden, Q1 2026, Robstown pops for arsenic. And what does TCEQ do? They find Robstown. They don't look and go, what's the root cause? What happened? What is the paradigm shift?
Yes.
What changed that for these people to suddenly have arsenic in their water? Unless it's sabotage, which it's not.
Yeah.
Well, it could be sabotage because you have a contributor 2 miles upstream. Now, Corpus is about, I'm guessing here because the river is not straight, about 4 miles downstream from where Robstown captures. So you're saying 6 miles, you know, but don't quote me on the exact miles, but they capture it over by Labonte Park, where it used to be the old Walter Cunningham water plant that's closed down, raised, all that, but they have this reservoir over there, but they capture the water and send it to their treatment plant. So you have arsenic in your river water, so you have cows, or the deer, or you got your chickens, or whatever you happen to have, because you're using the river and your cows are over there, even on the San Patricia side, because river doesn't know county boundaries.
No, it don't.
So you've got this livestock over here and they're drinking your water, and you load up your cows and you send them to slaughter, and that meat goes everywhere.
Wow.
And TCEQ never has looked at the arsenic.
Of course
toward
not.
Corpus.
Of course, because they know exactly where it's
Yeah.
coming from.
Yeah. And then
because
Peter
it's not-
Zazzoni says the arsenic's coming from Lake Corpus Christi because the level is so low. Now, I was watching the news and I looked at this and I went, okay, wait a minute. Now, okay, first of all, I'm going to say, from my knowledge,
my God.
Three Rivers, Mathis, and all them, they're not having an arsenic problem. But I want you to stop and think. Lake Corpus Christi is 35 miles away, approximately. Corpus Christi still pulls water from Lake Corpus Christi as what I would call a maintenance dose. So Peter Zazzoni says, oh no, it's not coming from our wells, it's coming from the lake. Seriously, Peter? So now you're poisoning 35 miles of river and TCEQ isn't doing anything about it? So I'm having a real problem with this.
Let me stop because it's getting deep real fast. He just said that it's coming from Lake Corpus Christi, right? So why are you still pulling water that has arsenic in it and putting into more water?
Yeah.
Are you intentionally like polluting the environment?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just if you ignored everything else,
Yeah.
and just look at that one statement, what does that tell you?
I mean, that one statement means that there's a lot of fibbing going on, blatant lies, untruths, hidden information. And I have to tell you, I don't know if you know this, and I'm not an expert. I have an expert, but the Gulf Coast Aquifer, and especially this part of Texas, is known for arsenic in the aquifer, but it's trapped in the sands and the clays, and it's fine until you disturb it. And what disturbs it is big turbulence. Not my little well, not everybody else's normal domestic wells. It's when you get these massive wells and it's kind of a cone of depression, and it creates this cyclonic effect. It pulls that arsenic out of the sands and the clays, which when it pulls in, then you've got your negative and positive ions and all of that. It bonds with the water. And of the three types of arsenic, two of them aren't going to kill you, but it's the other one, and it requires reverse osmosis to get out. And the biggest sin as a chemical treater was for anybody to assume that the solution to pollution is dilution. That is not correct.
I am so glad you said that because
But that's
all
what
the
Corpus
guys
is doing, is diluting it, and then they're letting everybody think it's fine.
Okay, so that is a God. I'm so glad you said that because that is something that's been eating at me for all the guys that sit there on Facebook saying, "Well, they're diluting the sludge." That doesn't change the pollution.
Yeah.
Like they're just making they're destroying more water instead of it being a concentrated fact and getting it out of there. They are adding it to more. That's like dropping a drop of oil and it pollutes 50 million gallons of water because the sheen goes forever. Just because you dilute it, yes, it does not erase the fact that the pollution is in there.
It's still there.
It is still there.
You're still drinking it, you're still cooking with it, you're still bathing it, your animals are drinking it, your livestock's drinking it. So now it's gone from way beyond our aquifer area, wherever the meat goes. It's bad. And it's become to the point that big and rich entities are getting bigger and richer, and the worst thing there is non-disclosure agreements. Because when they want something, first of all, they've gotten smart. When they got caught back decades ago, big lawsuit, class action, whatever, because they're killing everybody around. Well, okay, we're going to pay you off, but you got to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You can't tell anybody about it.
Yep.
Okay, well now, it's going now that you sell them your land, non-disclosure agreement. Can't talk about it. Because what this is doing, these non-disclosure, it has got so discombobulated, I guess, that's one of my husband's favorite words.
I can agree with that term,
Yeah,
yeah.
that the legal side are finding so many loopholes, or making loopholes and preparing loopholes, that the non-disclosure agreement is literally just a blank slate that they can just do what they want. Ed Rochelle Foundation, if you read the mission statement of Mr. Ed Rochelle, was him and his wife had no children, and they loved children. They provided lots of education for lots of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And their foundation was made when they passed that it was supposed to go for charitable education, libraries, things like that for children. I don't see any libraries. I don't see any children at the Ed Rochelle Foundation of that 2,478 acres out there. And they were caught dumping into the Cayamon Creek. Cayamon Creek runs west to east, and it meets up with the Nueces River just east of County Road 81. But that Cayamon Creek runs totally across the entire Ed Rochelle Foundation. And they're picking up the water from those wells. And there's video on the news taken for them dumping into that creek. And I cannot find a bed and banks permit for the Ed Rochelle Foundation. There's a bed and banks permit for the Western Well Field. They applied for a permanent bed and banks permit number 14156. And 260 plus letters, and you can't protest an application. You're writing a TCEQ saying, please do not approve this bed and banks permit. Please do not let them pump into the river because of this issue and this arsenic and the pulling and everything. Please don't do it. And for that many millions of gallons a day, my well, which is my original well, it's an old well. The lady that lived there forever was an early widow. She was by herself. Then it was just my husband and I, and now it's just me for 4.5 years. The demarcation of the casing is so dark because you have minerals in my water, but it's so dark, you know that water has been at this level for a long time to make that mark. It has dropped 25 feet.
Golly, so soon your well's going to be dry because you won't be deep enough because they have drugged their wells. So it's hundreds of feet past what they're doing. We're not messing with their water. No, okay, it's like a glass of water, guys.
Yep.
Just because you put your straw all the way to the bottom and somebody's drinking at the top, the person drinking out of the bottom is going to get to a point where that straw up on top is no longer going to touch that water.
And it's a big gulp straw. And then you've got your little bitty, let's just cut off drinking water straw. I mean, that was my representation when I went to talk to CCASRCD, saying, this is your one well, and this is my one well. So I had my 3-inch PVC pipe 2 feet tall and holding it up, and then I had my little drinking straw, and I said, you tell me which one's gonna go dry first. They don't care. They're on their phone like this, not listening. That's another thing about agenda items in Texas Open Meetings Act that I have a real problem with, because I've been on boards, not a lot of them, but I've been on Little League boards, women in construction boards, all this. When you, and I have talked to Port Aransas about when I wanted a market over there, and you're getting up with bureaucrats and people. Even then, you sign up to speak on an agenda item. But now they have it to where it's all public speaking. That's all it is. It's a time for public speaking.
And in Port Aransas only?
In Corpus too.
No, they have the public
No, in
comment.
Port Aransas back then, I'm going to say that was probably 7 years ago, something like that. I had to go, and I had gone through the city manager for my market, and he told me go talk to the Parks and Rec, wonderful man over Parks and Rec, and we put this market on together as the city of Port Aransas and me and my business partner. It was a huge success, and we were bringing people in once a month to Port Aransas, and they were all coming up to me because I've grown up here. They're going, I haven't been to Port Aransas in years, and they will spend an hour at my market. Then they're going to go to the restaurants, to the shops, to the places.
Yeah.
But you had these other ones, these big ones that they felt that we were taking money away from them. I said, no, I'm bringing revenue here. People, and then I have vendors that are staying in your hotels now.
Yeah.
Because they're coming in on a Friday, because it starts early Saturday. Then they get over and they're tired, so they'd like a nice cold beverage and something nice to drink and eat, and then they stay another night. So I'm bringing awareness more to, and that was our goal from our market, is to bring awareness to this area. That's why I picked Heritage Park all these years ago. I said, because Heritage Park is a great location, but nobody knows where it is anymore. You bring, the only time they know where it is, they park so they can go to graduations, you know?
Yeah.
So, but at that point is when that agenda item was called, that's when I spoke on it. So then you're speaking to the council, you're discussing, and they're asking you questions, and that's where the banter comes in, the back and forth.
Yeah.
But they have changed it now to where everybody gets 3 minutes to get up at the very beginning to say their 3 minutes, and they walk away. There's no discussion, no questions, no nothing. You do your 3 minutes and you have to go sit down.
So I've been going to the city council meetings here, and there's two times to speak, but you cannot do the same thing on both. Like the public comment, I can sit there and talk about whatever I want to talk about, but it cannot be about the agenda item. When the agenda item comes up, then they reopen the floor for you to speak just on that agenda item. But if you address the agenda item during your public comment, then you can no longer speak over here.
Right.
So then you lose that ability to have that banter. So,
Well, but that's how they go into executive session, though. Because when that agenda item comes up, I've never had the opportunity like I'm going to dumb it down and go to CCASRCD. That's the Corpus Christi Aquifer Storage and Recovery Conservation District. Their sole job back in the day was to to recover water surface water during times of abundance, treat it, inject it into a protected aquifer. A protected aquifer means that nobody else could get to it. And then in times of need, they pull that water and send it back through the treatment system. They never did that. They did a study. They did a study, and they did a study.
I heard some. That was a long time ago when I
So
heard something about that.
June of 2019 was their last meeting, and there was no study. And the area they were studying was east of the Corpus Christi International Airport. Now, if you go east from the Corpus Christi International Airport, you go all the way through Corpus and it hits the bay. That was their study of where have an aquifer to inject. Well, they never injected anymore. They never captured anymore. They didn't do anything. They just let it go down across the saltwater barrier with releases and all of that. But I went to talk to them, and when the agenda item comes up, you cannot talk about it. You have to say it in the public meetings, in the public comment time. You can speak on the annexation or the permits that they were doing, but when they bring up the actual agenda item, you're not allowed to speak. And I'm having a problem with that. I think that violates Texas Open Meetings Act, because at the time, you're speaking and they will not answer your questions. In fact, they don't, like I say, they literally are scrolling through their phones or whatever.
Yeah.
But so there is no back and forth, and then they get up and go into executive session to discuss it.
Yeah.
Then they come back out and say what their vote is. So they'll make a motion in a second, but there's no further discussion. You can't get up to speak. Or if you can, I haven't been able to, because I would hold my story I would hold my piece of PVC pipe in my straw until that actual agenda item came up.
Yeah.
But that's not, they don't seem to be making that available.
I'm gonna have to.
So it's something to look into.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look deeper into that. But I do want to bring up about the open, what was that company said, the open, where you can request reports or whatever.
Okay, that's Public Information Act.
Yes. So the city of Corpus Christi has been hiding a lot. And the way they're hiding it is financially. They know we're not going to pay $1,500 to get reports that are already in the computer. Takes a few, like I could find reports from like 5 or 6 years ago in my computer, and I don't even have a special computer. Mine's a Walmart special. You can't tell me it takes them 40 hours to find this. There's no, I'm sorry. Or if you do.
Or you're going to get this many pages.
Yeah. Or if you do, maybe those people weren't qualified to be in that job. Sit on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Because again, that is their way of keeping that information hidden, because who really wants to pay $1,500 for 2 pages?
Yeah. Are you familiar with Adobe Acrobat?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So I have a PDF file, and I happen to have Adobe Acrobat. You know, I'm just the theoretical. And I need to change that. I need to edit some text. Well, I don't want my signature gone. I don't want the initials gone. I just need to correct that little text right there, or change that little text. We're going to go back to those reports CCW provides the city, and you can go look them up. And I told you I was reading 4 million gallons a day, 6 million, 8, all that.
Well, he kept going on the news.
You go back and pull them up now, and a lot of them will say 4 million gallons a day, and we're still working on a warranty issue for well number 8. And then later on they'll say 10 million gallons a day or 8 or whatever, and the warranty issue has been resolved on well number 8. Well, now you go back and read them, and it says the Eastern Well Field continues to operate in compliance with TCEQ regulations. And warranty issue on well number 8. They have changed the verbiage to remove those gallons, because later on, when the arsenic hit, they said, oh no, because the TDS, we were never pumping more than 2 to 3 million gallons a day. And I'm looking at that TV and going, that's a load of bovine fecal matter, because I know what I read.
Yeah.
Then I immediately started going back, because it happened in, I think February, March is when this arsenic came out. I immediately went back to all of them, and every one of them says that same exact verbiage in that first sentence. Now, I didn't pull those 2 million, 4 million, 6 million, 8 million gallons out of my ear. I know what I saw, I know what I read. So things are getting changed. Now I'm sure metadata could find it, you know, where the change was, when it was, but it takes research, it takes legal means to get in to find that stuff. Forensic accounting.
Yeah, forensic accounting is, I was just talking about something like that.
So they're hiding stuff because they don't care about the people. They don't care about the endangered species. I went to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
We did too. You know what we were told? They're not that big of an entity to go after them.
Yeah. Do you know
I'm
what
like,
they
but you're
told
going to
me?
come after me for
You know what
using
they
an
told
illegal
me?
hook?
You know what they told me? They couldn't go on that property. I said, the hell you can't. You're the feds.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. No, they ghosted me. She told me she would, and I went in there and I told her this. And her name is Katrina Martin. She works over here, and she is from Florida. She had only been here for about a year, but she's the whatever the district director, whatever she is here. And the first word out of my mouth, I said, I am here to file a formal complaint. Now, in other words, get your form out. Oh, well, tell me a little bit about it. And then I explained to her, I said, and also, it's mainly it's the endangered species. And I said, I'm just gonna use one as an example, because they're not here anymore, but it is habitat, it's ocelot habitat. She laughed at me, she laughed in my face, and I just looked at her, I said, no, it is ocelot habitat, it is known ocelot habitat, they're just not here anymore because of things that happen. And I said, so now, let's not even talk about the ocelots, let's talk about the black spotted newt. I said, I got 27 pages of endangered species just in Nueces County. And said, who's watching out for all of those? And I'm talking from animals to plants, to marine life, to organisms, to everything that makes the ecology work, that makes the earth go round.
Yeah.
And she said, well, let me get with my, if I'd have known what you were coming in for, I could have had my biologist here. I said, I'm not telling you ahead of time what I'm coming in for. I'm here to file a formal complaint.
Yeah. Let me
Let's get it started.
No.
Well, she said, well, I said, well, let me get with my biologist. How long? I said, no, how long? What, before? Give me 2 weeks. No, 2 weeks I come up with. What's the deal? She just ghosted me, and that was in February. Ghosted me. No reply, no nothing. And
my kids are running around the shop. The cats.
So, so even the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they don't care.
And this was a huge just stab in the back for all fishermen. Not just with what you're going through, with us in the Inner Harbor Desalinization Plant, because we try to get them involved. And they're like, oh, it's this, it's that. It was like, wait a minute, like, you're supposed to be protecting the marine life, the habitats, and all of this, but you're going to do it to me, but you won't do it to the big industries that are coming in to destroy it. I don't get this. And then C was another one. Like, we tried to get them involved, they didn't get involved. Like, all the entities we knew that were there to protect marine life and habitats and all of that, ghosted. It wasn't until recently that they finally, okay, we need to say something. Why weren't y'all in the fight from day one?
Who owns the properties? Who benefits? If you're out in the Gulf and you have mobile desal systems, and then you know what gets me? Well, what about the hurricanes? Seriously? Okay, well, how often do we have hurricanes? And okay, so if CCASRCD...
I'm gonna stop you real quick, make it real easy. If that was such a concern, why do we have so many oil rigs out there?
Thank you. Yeah, and what do?
That's a null and void comment. Null and void.
They lower down, they demob a little bit, but if CCASRCD did their job, and they had an injection location, their protected aquifer.
Years ago, when they were supposed to be doing this, we
could have, right, even now with not necessarily the natural waters, when we had in abundance, that was their goal, that was they're supposed to be doing it. But now, obviously, those reservoirs will never come back in my lifetime. I hope they come back in yours, but I wouldn't count on it. But if you're going to get desalinization, if you're going to do desal, then CCASRCD could, in essence, and the right thing to do, is inject that treated water into their so-called protected aquifer that they don't have, but they should have. Then when a hurricane comes and they have to pull the mobile systems off, you don't need a desalination plant on the ground. Do it mobile. Let those mobile companies own, operate, maintain. Corpus just needs to buy the water from them and let them do all the work. Let them sell the byproducts, because the goal is to take that reject water and further extract viable byproducts from it. The goal is to discharge as clean reject water as you can back into the Gulf. And what if you could get that reject water to a point that it could be used in the industry for water that never touches the human hands. It's just used for
Cooling or what have you.
yeah, or fire water
so,
or something.
yeah.
But Corpus does not need to own a desalination plant because that's always just more money. Just buy the water. My point. Somebody profits from the property. Somebody profits from the sales. Somebody profits from all that. When all they really need is to be out there in the Gulf, and they do a pipeline for the intake and a pipeline for the discharge.
So, that, okay, two things. One, if the city of Corpus Christi was to buy the water from these guys, and it's a higher amount than what we are paying, then they need to sell that to industry at the cost or more. Because again, too, why is the city of Corpus Christi residents going to pay for water that is being sold to industry at pennies on the dollar at a reduced amount, but they're making us pay top dollar for it?
Yes.
Why should we be carrying these multi-billion-dollar operations? Because if you really look at it, the city of Corpus Christi completely shut down. If we stop using all of our water, the industry would soak that up in a matter of weeks, maybe months, and we'd be in the same position.
Well, guess what the industry's going to do if the city comes up and says you need to cut rate? Because as a chemical tree or chemical company, the one thing you never, ever did or wanted to do, I never had to, was to go and tell your plant manager, because that's who you're going to tell, I'm sorry, we've run out of chemical, you're going to have to cut your rate. Because my chemical, their gasoline production, or ULSD production, a lot of that was based on me being able to provide the chemical needed to make that gasoline. Now, if I let my tank run dry, and they can't make that product because it won't meet spec, yeah, you know, and they're doing 80,000 gallons, 80,000 barrels a day, you know, and you're saying you can't, and that's just in one unit. I'm using the catalyst unit. You don't tell them that. And so that was my job, is to make sure, besides hooking up pumps and treating ships and barges and doing service in the unit, my job was to make sure that the 9 refineries that I handled the inventory control for never ran out of product. So if the city of Corpus Christi tells these refineries, you have to cut rate because we're going to cut your water, in my opinion, those big industries are going to turn around and pick up that phone for those mobile systems and say, how fast can you get me a unit here? All I need is water with no salt in it. You know, I don't, you know, if say they want to cut my rate, I'll use it for my admin building and all of the, you know, restrooms and whatever, but how quick can you get me a mobile system out here so I don't have to cut that rate?
Yeah.
Because they can afford it.
They can afford it.
And if you're telling me, as you're my supplier, and you're telling me I can't supply, then that's not breach of contract, because I have to make this much gasoline, I have to make this much product, whatever.
That also boils back down to the Inner Harbor desal plant that they pre-sold this water to industries. Now, again, there are still parameters that desalination plant can run and cannot run. If there is a natural occurrence such as red tide, brown tide, and there was a few other things, but those were the two that stuck out to me. If those are in the base system, the water at which they draw on, and it's present, that desalination plant cannot run. These are facts. You can research them yourself. Now, just like she is saying, and this is what I've been saying, but I can't get somebody who's in there to, but the closest thing I could bring along with your comment is what happened with Bob Hall Pier. before it was even open. They had put it on the news. If it's not done by this date, we are going to fine that company $10 million a day or something like that. It was some crazy amount. Fact check me. I encourage you to do it because it boils down to exactly what you're saying. Those industries that were sold this water, if they don't get this water, guess what you think they're going to do to the city?
They're going to go around them.
Well, no. They're going to sue them. They're going to sue the crap out of us because they didn't get the water that was promised to them because these morons here oversold the water. Yeah. They weren't prepared for it. They were rolling on luck.
They're praying for rain.
They're praying
for
rain.
They're praying.
Well, we are praying for rain. I don't know if
they're praying for rain. They were hoping for rain.
Yeah. So again, it all goes full circle. But again, what I'm saying is, if they are going to sell water to industry, and we're having to pay more for it, that is not a good community partner.
It's great.
Because even if we don't make billions of dollars, you know what I mean? But you have a company that does, and they refuse to pay their taxes. They refuse to pay their fair share on it. But I guarantee you, our cost of gas has gone up every year.
Your water's gone up.
Our water, our taxes, our light bills, everything has gone up in the last 30 years. My whole life I can remember when gas was like 79 cents a gallon.
Oh, I remember when it was 32.
I want to say, I think one time I saw it at like 45. It dropped down real low, what have you. I can remember all of that. Now we're paying over it. And you can put this on no, you can't put it on the president because that's a whole nother ballgame. Yeah. But again, industry has raised their rates every single year. We should be allowed to do the same. Holding them to a 30-year contract or giving them a 30-year contract is asinine. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it because, again, they're going to continue making that profit. And it's going to continue going up because people are behind it. They are all about their bottom dollar.
And like I said, when you bring property into it, you need to find out who owns that property and who benefits. I have a pretty good idea who one of them is. I'm not going to mention the name, but they also are huge contractors employed by the city. So everything comes full circle on who owns the property and why are you paying to purchase or lease property when you can have the mobile systems where you don't pay for the property. And then you talk about, everybody goes, oh, well then the water will be so expensive. Okay, well what do you think operations, ownership, operation, maintenance, employees, taxes, insurance, what do you think that all contributes to? If you take that away and you put that onus, permitting, being in compliant, doing fines if they're out, if you take that onus away from the city and put it on individual companies that are experts at desal, and I'm not saying you don't have to have just X H2O. I mean, where'd that one come from? From March, and Miss Vaughn put it on the agenda at the very last minute, and all of a sudden they get this full-blown presentation. There's other desal companies out there that have been trying to get on the agenda and are being ignored.
I saw one where
you can have more than one because that's called competition. That's why you have more than one refinery, because it's called competition. But that's why they could have company A, company B, company C. Technically, they could put them in right now for a trial. Let's say everybody's on a trial run. You're coming out here and you're going to prove to me what you can provide for me. I need this kind of water, or this kind of water. There's different kinds of water. Corpus sells raw water, reuse water, drinking water. They even do wastewater and do all that. So it's different levels of water. I'm not saying that these desal companies you don't want pure water. Pure water is not good. You have to have minerals. You have to have, stuff in your water. Yeah. Pure water is more for just very sterile environments with no ions, no
Yeah,
all that.
yeah.
But get the salt out. You have what we call non-potable water, and it goes straight to the treatment plant with the existing infrastructure. And once you get the infrastructure and it's in your treatment, then you're sending it out through the existing infrastructure to your customers. So there's no big paradigm shift, there's no big change. All you're doing is you're buying the water, and that company, whatever, they're paying for everything. And they're selling that water to Corpus. Because if they have to move, if their thing starts going down, they'll bring in another mobile unit and take that one back and get it refurbed or whatever. Bring in another one. That's their responsibility to Corpus, that we're going to provide you water. But your job also is to be proactive. In case a hurricane's coming, you might want to have some water on hand. I don't care if it's storage tanks or a protected aquifer that you're supposed to be finding from 10 years ago.
Quick question. On these mobile desalinization plants, where would they be posted up and at if they were actually be brought in? Because obviously you can't do it in the Bay of Corpus Christi.
No, they'd be out there by the oil rigs. They can, a lot of them, they'll anchor off their close to those oil rigs. And you have existing pipeline. There's demobed oil rigs still out there. They're just a platform. They actually have existing pipelines that could be used. Maybe it gets to a point you have to reroute where it is, but you still have that source there. And they have to pig them, clean them out, whatever, but that becomes their responsibility. Or Corpus could own the pipelines, and then as these plants come and go based on their deals that they make on their national accounts or whatever, you unhook, move another one in.
That is totally not far-fetched at all.
It's not far-fetched at all.
That they were able to pump in millions and millions of gallons of oil or gas or natural gas way offshore.
Very offshore.
Why can't they do the water the same?
Yeah.
Like, why can't they build it?
Yeah. You don't have to be that far offshore, but you need to be far enough shore that the water is deep enough. You're not sucking up all the crabs and crustaceans and shrimp and different things that are other people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
And then you want your reject water as clean as possible. Right now, the biggest question, I believe, if I remember with that presentation, was Corpus and them were asking, well, who's going to get to sell the byproducts? What? We're trying to get water to save your city, and you are worried about the lithium and the bromine and the hydrochloric and all the little byproducts that come out, who's going to get to sell those? Because and then you got to find someone, you got to find a buyer. What? So, stop. Let them do it.
I did talk to one of the guys from the H2OX, and he said that they already have a company that's willing to come in and buy all that, like clean all those metals and stuff like that and deal with it to help offset the cost of it.
They already have the customer.
Yeah, so
but wait, you're gonna sell a byproduct from my water? No, it's not your water.
Yeah.
We're selling you your water. What's left is for us to do.
Yeah.
And then, but whoever, and I still think, I like the competition. I think you should not put all of your pennies in one bag. I mean, you should have company A, company B, maybe in company C. And then you've got them and you're moving around. And then maybe if one of them, some of the most important things on big accounts like this is not necessarily the cheapest cost. Because if it's the cheapest cost, they usually have the worst safety record or the highest breakdown. You're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, and especially as another one I have a real problem with, is they need to be having presentations, proposals, then you are on an invite list to bid, and it is a sealed bid. Then they open up the bids, and not necessarily the one, but you're getting all kinds of information from them for the presentation. And safety record is one of the biggest things. If you have a glowing safety record, you may be higher, but guess what? In the long run, it's going to be less expensive.
Yep.
And so, you know, one company, just because they're saying all the greatness about them, okay, well, there's other ones out there who are doing it too.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I have bad sleep apnea.
So, yeah. Well, and I want to go back to my area because
Real quick, before you do that, have you seen that company that has a plant that can suck air in and create water out of that air? Pretty much, it's like you put a cup out with ice in it, and the water condensates
I'm a little
around
worried about that.
it. So
Yeah, something AWG, something water generator or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe air water. I don't know what it
So
is.
why does that?
Well,
worry
if you take all the humidity out of the air, when is it ever going to rain?
Well, see that's.
I mean, it takes humidity to create clouds, and then clouds get heavy with humidity, and then the clouds get heavy and it rains.
So, Corpus has a huge, like the humidity level down here kills most people. Like they come from up north, and you know we have, even though it's not raining, we still have a high humidity. So that is something that, like, I was looking at, and I was like, why don't they try that as well? Because I mean, again, it's not putting out a bad product. There's no hazardous byproducts. And then too, again, that's like the bigger sell. I mean, and I want to hear you. You know,
I don't mind the capture part of the relative humidity, but when you start pulling beyond relative, that's, to me, I think it can exacerbate the problem as much. Now, small time, probably not. Personal ones at your house, but that's the point. They're all putting this, oh, you got bad water now? Well, you know, Tommy Sue, you need to drill your well deeper. Well, I'm a widow on a fixed income. And then I drill deeper, then I get into the more saline. So now all of a sudden, well, then now you gotta put your own RO in. Well, that poor man in Orange Grove, his filter's supposed to last, I think, what, 3 months or something it is? It was like a week, and it's already just brown with yuck recently because of the impurities that is now in his water that used to not be. So I'm not an opponent of it, but I think that's a knee-jerk reaction when the Gulf of whatever you want to call it, Mexico, America, I don't care, the Gulf, is looking right out there at the city, and they could utilize that cleanly and efficiently.
if they do it.
If they would do it.
Well,
Everybody wants to know,
cleanly
well,
and
what's in
efficiently.
it for me? They have to get away from the what's in it for me, because this isn't about you. This is about
They
our
refuse
earth.
to, and the prime example is that Inner Harbor. The Inner Harbor desalination, it's already been voted down because of the crazy cost, and then the whole unknowns. And we've been kind of paying it, hearing those meetings that they have, those monthly meetings, and they keep trying to sugarcoat everything. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry, like, we've got guys that are sitting there and helping us break down what's going on and stuff like that. And it's like, how
It's like
can
80
you-
residents aren't important to them. Okay, now we're not talking about just 80 residents, but 80 residents are the immediate affected people at Hillcrest.
Yeah.
Because they're right under the harbor bridge. That's where this is all going on. So you don't care about 80 people, well, I can guarantee you don't care about the crabs and the plankton and the crustaceans and the, and
I've
the
got
fish,
those
and
guys.
you don't care about the bay, and then you're gonna put that in there into a bay that is very slow moving. You already know it's slow moving because you've got red tide and brown tide.
Exactly. No, but I got guys on there that comment, oh, no, I'm not worried about crabs. I'm not worried about the shrimp. And that's you. That's just one person.
Ask a shrimper if they care.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the shrimper. It's the restaurants, the hotels, the tackle shops, the fishermen. Like,
What about oysters?
Yeah.
Oysters are the filter of the sea. So I'm sorry, I love raw oysters, but I haven't eaten raw oysters in a long time because I'm scared to death. Because Corpus just got finished with their, well, we're not gonna sue you, but if you don't fix it, we're gonna sue you, of cleaning up their wastewater and leaks and everything because of, remember several years ago, they'd go, oh, the E. coli and the bacteria in the bay, that's Corpus. That was Corpus. That was Corpus's wastewater. That wasn't Tommy Sue out there, or Tommy Sue's dog out there letting whatever go. No, and it was just on the news about 2 or 3 months ago that that action has been filed. In other words, Corpus has supposedly taken care of the problem, that if you don't, we're gonna do this. But that's now on file, so if you mess up again, we're bringing it back up.
So I know they do testing, I think once a month, at the Packery, North Packery, South Packery, by Bob Hall Pier for fecal matter and stuff like that. I know because I've been seeing those reports come out and stuff like that. So I know they're still testing, which is good, and I hope they don't stop, because that's when, oh, they're not testing no more. Now we can let it go again.
Because I think it was around, what's this, 2026? I think it's around 2019 that this all started happening. And so while there wasn't like, and you might have to delete this part out because I don't want to say something I'm not sure of, but in my opinion, it was, if you don't fix this, we're going to sue the living shit out of you. So, I mean, more or less, because you know what's happening and you have not been maintaining your system, and now it's got, just like Mary Road's pipeline, it leaks like a sieve because they don't maintain it. Okay, oh, it costs money. Oh, really? Okay, well, look how many gallons. But anyway,
so
something came back that they fixed the problem, but it took them 7 years.
So I think that comment is okay.
Okay.
So you shouldn't have to worry about that, because I know, we've got the paperwork posted on my channel, and I think it's back in my emails, because there was a time period when the city of Corpus Christi was getting these fines for I think it was 112,000, and they got multiple per day.
Per day.
Per day. Okay, but you can give the city manager a
$109,000 what they make.
He makes more than the president of the United States.
He left as manager of San Antonio of what, 1.5, 1.2 million people, to come down to someone that was at the time 300,000 people, and they paid him more. And what has he done for us?
You gotta open your eyes.
But tell us that arsenic's coming out from the lake 35 miles away. So we're just gonna, so either A, you're poisoning from 2 miles down up from Robstown, or you're poisoning 35 miles up.
So my thing is, and we've seen the paperwork, you know, the city manager is part of a RICO investigation up in San Antonio.
Yes.
Why would you even get in bed with the guy that's part of a RICO investigation until it is completely cleared up?
Why would you pay $409,000?
Oh, we know what he's being paid for.
But it all comes back into your bureaucrats, your politicos, the Port of Corpus Christi and the people on it.
Money.
And who's in bed with the next one, or whose hands in whose pocket.
Guys, at the end of the day, gotta follow the money. And the people that are out there speaking, and you're reading their comments and this and that, truly look into why they're making that comment. Why are they defending these industries? Why are they defending these people that are making all these bad choices after choice after choice? And you're okay with that?
And the mayor still is fighting for Inner Harbor.
Yes, she is so dead set.
And I'm a little upset about the big news that NRA wasn't going to get that certain funding because of their credit or whatever. And so I think everybody took a breath of fresh air. Ooh, no Harbor Island. Well, then all of a sudden, boom, this morning, first thing out of the news, Harbor Island is a go. Really?
They received, what was
So
it,
first thing I started
$5
thinking
billion?
about, what about all the crabs and the fish?
Well,
And the birds and the
what
endangered
they
species, the
changed-
pelicans.
What they changed up
I mean, and the whooping crane.
from the original deal was they were gonna intake and release during the trip channel.
Yeah.
Now with the new one, they're saying they're pumping
1
it.
mile.
That is not enough.
1 mile.
That is
1
not
mile
enough.
is that interchange from you. That's
Yeah.
1 mile.
Yeah, that is not enough. It's
That's
gonna
not
end
enough.
up back on our beaches
Yeah.
within weeks.
How deep is it 1 mile out? Not that deep. You go farther out, it's deeper. You need to get.
Well, it's not just deep. It's
Yes.
hidden in interchange where there is a current that is
Yes.
gonna help. That will help diffuse
You
it.
have to have the current.
Yes, there
And you
is.
have to clean the reject water. You're not just dumping, you're not pulling heavy, and then again, you're in a harbor. So again, you're sucking up contaminants that technically should not be out in the Gulf, but are concentrated in your ship channels.
Yep.
If you've been around any ship channels,
Oh, I have.
I mean-
I've been security at them, and you can go to the bulkhead and look down, and you can see a sheen.
yes. So
of
when you suck that
contamination.
up and you extract good water out, you have concentrated the contaminants. So now you're going to take this, sometimes sludge, you're going to take that out and dump it out into the Gulf to further contaminate those fish and all of that, all that stuff. So no, that's why you have to have these companies that extract those contaminants, and technically they need to prove that that reject water is as clean as they can get it, and there's people that can use salt also.
Yes.
You technically want to get that reject water, and to my point, I think the science could get to it to where you could actually use the reject water. You don't have to just dump it out. Now, but if it's clean water, you're giving back what you've taken away.
Yes.
So you're
Well,
not.
You're improving what
So,
you're
yeah,
taking
and you're
away,
gonna,
yes.
but you're. I drink this water and then it stays filled up, so I'm putting back. So you're putting back what you're taking away, but you're putting it back in a clean way. So you don't always have to use the reject water for reuse if you're replenishing the massive, vast Gulf. You know, I mean, eventually, I mean, if you use water enough, it can't replenish always. I mean, but for now, that to me, the desal is the best resource, and they've come such a long ways with the being able to extract the bad stuff out. And also because sometimes the bad stuff is good for operations and other
Yeah.
progress.
Yes, and I understand that their intake was so many feet down below, and it's supposed to be below all the contaminations, and I'm sorry, you cannot get me to accept that, because when a barge comes through, the water, it hits the water, and it'll push the water down, and then it gets turned up by the propeller. Like it's there is no safe zone.
If they're sitting there telling me that ship propeller is going to fix the problem, they have literally bumped their head, and they are blatantly lying to anybody, and I'm hoping nobody really believes that. So, and my other one is back to the aquifer. So we're going to get away from desal on that, because I want to get back to my groundwater.
Yes.
And God bless St. Patricia County for having a groundwater district, except for, in my opinion, they should have never approved that permit in the first place.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Kitty. Real quick, here we go.
Here we go. That's a big trout.
Yeah. And then this is his. It's a friend of his. They call him Tio Bob, but he takes them. But there he is. He said, "Now this is my middle grandson and my youngest grandson." But this is, I mean, that's what he does, and he's catch and release on all of these. I mean, like these big ones like that, he catches them, he puts them back, and now that's freshwater trout. But that's what the whole point is. I grew up fishing. My dad built his own flat bottom boat out of marine plywood and put the decks on it, and then had the Coleman lanterns on because we would gig flounder. And that's what I grew up doing. I'd sleep under the deck of the boat. Then my husband and I, we didn't have boats. We went pier fishing, Indian Point, Bob Hall, but then we would go down pins all the time, get away from the people. And my kids we all went down there. So now my youngest daughter and her husband, they live in Flower Bluff. They are big fishermen. My son is a huge fisherman. He's in the Sharkothon, but he does the trout division, and he's won 4 or 5 times, something like that. His wife has won, and that's a great tournament because it's catch and release.
Yeah.
You know, but we have to protect that for our people. But over here with my water situation, I don't have a groundwater district. And of course, that's the one TCEQ is sitting on that application. It was submitted on September 2nd. And my understanding is they talked like on Zoom. It wasn't, I don't know if it was recorded, and they went down everything with TCEQ because once you submit it, the clock starts. And my understanding was they went through everything and checked every box off, and TCEQ says, looks good, send it. They sent it, and later on, I guess mid-October, sometime around like that, TCEQ sent it back with 3 additional requirements. So how do you fulfill requirements and they tell you it looks good, then it comes back? And the little bit that I can glean is that 2 of them happen to be that, well, you needed to provide and map out the water systems like River Acres and Oasis, and I'm thinking, TCEQ always knows that. Why are they saying that? And then the third most one was that you needed to get with the Nueces County Appraisal District and have them put a value on the territory. Now you're asking them to do that in November. Do you know what's happening in November, December, January? Everybody's trying to get the taxes right. Nueces County Appraisal District is a little busy to take and pull every owner in that territory to add a value to it. They're a little busy.
Yeah.
So that's delayed things. Now I think it's back at TCEQ, but I can't find it. I cannot find the application to find the status. So what's the status of that? But they have managed to take that permanent application 14156 that we had over 260 protests. Please, TCEQ, don't approve this. This is bad groundwater. They're going to deplete our water, plus they're going to put bad water into the river. Please don't do it. Abbott came in and on March 18th requested TCEQ to make a temporary permit and waive restrictions and limitations. They came in and they made that same 14156 application. They approved it for a temporary bed and banks. We were protesting that they're permanent and temporary. Eastern Wellfield is on a temporary bed and banks permit. It's good for 3 years, but they can be paused, shut down, whatever, without compliance. I have yet to see a salinity and TDS discharging into the river that has been within compliance standards, but that have not been shut down.
And again, where is this location again? Because we've gone over a lot, and I want people to remember, okay, this is what the area we're talking about again.
Eastern Wellfield is about 3 miles outside the city limits on the west side, going down Farm Road, FM 624 Northwest Boulevard. Between County Road 73 and County Road 75, it's at the very end of County Road 73 that turns into Ware Road. That's where the Eastern Wellfield is. That's 15.6 acres with 8 massive wells. on 16.268 acres, 15.68 acres.
And aren't they also supposed
By
to
the
be
toxic dump.
mandated that they aren't supposed to pull a certain amount of water out of the wells per day or per year, something like that as well, you know?
Oh, they have, yeah, it's called acre feet, and I have that somewhere, but, and they talk about acre feet and cubic feet per second. So, do you know how many gallons of water are in 1 acre foot?
No idea.
235,851 gallons.
Okay, repeat that one more time.
235,851 gallons for an acre foot, and I think that they are allocated 29,000 acre feet per year out of 15.68 acres. An acre foot is what you would say,
Like
what,
a
1
cubic foot.
What 1 foot of water on your 43,560 square feet. How much, if you could make it like an aquarium and
Yeah.
1 foot, that's what 1 acre foot is 1 foot. So now you go 29,000. It's and they're saying that rule of capture, the 1904 rule of capture says, well, if it's under my land, that's mine. Okay, but if it's under your land, the groundwater, which is our only aquifer, Gulf Coast aquifer is our sole aquifer, and it's the whole Gulf Coast of Texas down into Mexico. But you have smaller aquifers within that, and they're different layers. But water does not understand meets and bounds description, because if your land is this big, but you're sucking this much, so you're pulling from you and from me.
Right. Yeah.
But-
I mean, prime example, you can have a bowl, and you suck out of the middle, it's gonna suck all the way down, yeah.
So we're gonna use the Wilder land because of that Evangeline, it's like 23,000 acres. Okay, I get it, that's a lot of land. But here's my point. If you can utilize that water only on your land, like if you want to make the whole thing as one big giant stock pond, fine. But it should not be able to leave your property. Because the moment you are now allowing export and transport. So now you're not just sucking that water for your use, you're sucking it away from everybody for your greed.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not buying the land, they're buying the water rights. As long as those people are getting that money for that water rights, they don't care, because how many residences, how many houses are on 23,000 acres on the Wilders? I don't know. You can't get in there to look, but I can guarantee you there's not one house every, like a lot. You know, like you know, like me, I have acreage, but I don't know where you live. But what if you don't even have an acre? I can guarantee you they don't have that out there. They don't. It's vast land, so they don't have that use. So you have to get rid of that rule of capture as far as export and transport.
Not get rid of it, but amend it to
Yeah, well,
exclude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and say it should be totally abolished. I don't understand. There's a reason why, because it's gone up to the courts, and the courts are scared to death to abolish the 1904 rule of capture. I don't know if that means because these bigger and rich entities will now come in and start controlling and putting a meter on my little bitty domestic well. I mean, I don't know. It's me. I'm the only one over there that uses my water. So they're going to put a meter on it, but it has to be modified. No export, no transport.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
No
like
export, no
leave
transport.
the rule of the capture can still remain. They just can't export it.
Because they're saying,
for
well,
profit.
the groundwater conservation district control that. No, they don't, because the majority of the board members on the groundwater conservation district are landholders. They're not you. And even, I mean, it could be me, but I don't irrigate. The majority of them are farmers and ranchers, and a lot of them don't irrigate. I mean, I don't see irrigation over by my house. But there's a lot of them, they want that capability of doing it. They want that capability of maintaining those stock ponds so they can have birthing livestock year round instead of conservation, and saying, put your bull over there and your cows over here, and then in spring, you know, let him in and let him have some fun, then do your spring. But you don't have to have that revolving door. And then irrigation, I think with the, you know, that farmers have insurance, that's what crop insurance for. But on the other end, I've got my friend over here who's a dairy farmer. It's the lone dairy left around here that hasn't become some huge feedlot dairy that they managed to cripple your neighborhood dairies. There's times that he needs to irrigate because his cows are grass fed.
Yeah.
So in order to have grass, you have to have water. So I understand, but he's not transporting that water. He's not selling it to the Corpus.
Yeah.
So the rule to capture, but groundwater conservation districts, my understanding is the San Patricia County Groundwater Conservation District more or less rubber stamps every permit that comes in, says yes, 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 and they put it in a public notice.
About this little big.
Well, it's about this big for you to read, and I think on that one they had 10 days. Like if I recall, they had 10 days to one, notice it, develop a protest, and it had to be submitted in writing, not email.
Yeah.
In writing, delivered to them. And if that time passes without a protest, it is auto approved.
Stop me there. I'm gonna stop you there because I got a great one that I'm gonna.
Anyway, groundwater conservation districts are supposedly the fix, but they're not, because they're scared to death to be sued.
No, I have seen multiple times where these groups or entities are created with some catchy name that makes it look like they are there to help protect you and me and our water. They are sub entities of industry that turn it to a lot. Oh, they followed this group. It's the same damn company, but just with this name.
Yes.
And that's what I believe the TCEQ is.
Oh,
it has
TCEQ
showed
is the
its
biggest
card
rubber stamper there is.
for industry.
For industry.
We with the Inner Harbor desalinization plant. Now I'm sorry, I got to go back to this,
Oh, that's
but
quite all right.
it's going to come right back to your deal, because the deal with them, you had to file that deal. We did all of that. We went over there. We had to sign our paperwork saying, hey, we have a grievance against this, and if this goes through, this is how we're going to be affected. So that's that meeting I went up to, and I brought up the brown tide and red tide, and they looked at each other. I mean, I promise you guys, deer in the headlight look. It never even hit their radar that was on there. And at that point, I knew something was fishy. Fast forward a month or two later, I get like 3 or 4 documents from the TCEQ and saying, oh, because I didn't live within 1 mile of where the desalinization
You
plant.
are not an affected person.
Exactly, which is BS, because we are still directly affected. When that bay goes down, I buy a ton of shrimp out of that bay.
Mm-hmm.
I go fish in that bay. I got customers that come in going to go fish that bay, and if they no longer can do that, I am directly affected by that deal. So
Just
going
like
back
the
to,
lake people have been directly affected by it.
exactly.
And TCEQ says, well, write us a letter. Corpus, 3 Rivers, the NRA, write us a letter that you don't want to do mandatory releases anymore. I really think that there were not mandatory releases for all of this time, and water just going off and going over the saltwater barrier. I mean, you're talking millions of gallons and billions now that the lake it could be low because there is evaporation
Yes.
and there is a drought, but there was a drought 10 years ago. And there was a
It
drought
never-
10 years before
it
that.
never dropped
Yeah.
down that, because I remember where you were talking about, like, you could see the watermarks on the trees that were
Yes.
surrounding the lake. Yes, I could see all that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, 5 or 6 years later, I noticed it was a few feet down. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then they even have the piers, the floating piers.
Yeah.
They have the height, which
They're
is the
mowing
height.
a mile out, and I've heard some people say that, and I don't know this is true. I do not know if this is true because like I've heard that some game wardens have come up and said, no, you can't mow out there. You can't mow that area. Well, I'm sitting there going, well, if you don't have any water, and where there's really tall grass and weeds, then you have snakes and rodents and things.
Now
So
it
I'm
becomes
trying
a
to
human
protect
hazard.
so I can't, but you're saying I can't mow that? And then you start talking about property lines. A lot of times the property line is where the water is.
Yeah.
So that means, you know, well, now are you gonna tax me on that one land way out there? I don't know.
Oh, there's that catch-22.
Yeah. So you've got these bulkheads that are built in these piers, and this is where I grew up with my friends. I never had lake property, but I had friends that we'd go out there and fish and swim, and then all of a sudden you started getting the jet skis. I used to go to to Sunrise Beach all the time with a friend of mine with the jet skis, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
Well, there's enough that's gone, but you start thinking that you start to talk, the same thing is going to happen here with the bays. What about Red Dot Bait Stand? My Lord, I grew up with Red Dot Bait Stand. I don't know if it's still the same owners, but I remember Red Dot. I remember paying a toll to go to the island because they used to charge like $1 a vehicle. Until then, that was paid for. You actually had a toll bridge there.
I remember that as a kid, parents talking about
I
that.
remember the lift bridge.
Yeah.
I rode
remember
my
that.
motorcycle across the lift bridge. That's pretty scary because you look down, it's got all that.
Yeah, the grading that you
Yeah,
just rode.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But
I was young.
the same
young.
thing is going to happen that's happened at the lake, and Corpus Christi allowed that to happen. They sat back and let it happen and did nothing.
Yep.
And then they turned around and said, oh, well, it's mandatory. If anything is mandatory, if you can prove it needs to be changed, then get off your duff and do it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, because it didn't worry about them because they were still making the revenue. Because they were still selling. They say 60%. I still think it's more than 60% because when they say they service 500,000 customers, it's big industry, and they also have their claws. They do. They have their claws in some of these smaller towns, Kingsville, Three Rivers, Beeville, things like Mathis. They have their claws into them because they do supply them some type of water. So I think it's, if I looked at something like 39 different customers outside of the industry. So you start adding all those up because all those people are dependent on that water that they've said, we'll sign right here and we'll supply you the water. Just like with the arsenic, when they tell Robstown, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll sell you some of our treated water. To what, to dilute? Because Robstown still cannot treat for arsenic. So you're just diluting it down to where it's below the reportable number. The solution to pollution is dilution. That is their concept. But you're still drinking it. 10 ppb of arsenic is bad, deadly. Do you know what ppb? Parts per billion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Salinity is measured in parts per thousand. And TDS is parts per million. Milligrams per liter is a part per million. 1,000 TDS by TCEQ is bad, needs to be investigated. The TDS from that discharge at the Eastern Well Field, I've never seen it below 1,000. I've seen it up to 5,000. And TCEQ has not stopped them, has not said stop pumping. They haven't paused them, and they haven't stopped them. And they're not even having a test for the other bad stuff. You're pulling that arsenic from the sands. You're gonna, you find a picture real quick. So anyway, we're going back to, luckily with Sinton and St. Patricia County and all of that, I'm trying to find the most, all of them from, you know.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. No, I did that because me talking about the rods and stuff like that.
They haven't even pumped from that area because of they were found to have standing recently. The Sinton and St. Paul water and an individual were found to have standing. So that Evangeline is on hold.
Mm-hmm.
Now Corpus is still, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were still doing all of that construction and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That just puts the burden on me now, because now they're gonna come and get that whatever 24 million they thought they were, well now they need it from my, And the Ed Rochelle Foundation, they said that 2,478 acres was gonna be folded in to the western well field, which is 248.49 acres. How do you fold 2,478 acres into 20? They're gonna fold it in, let's call it the western well field expansion or whatever. I cannot find a well ID, location, or discharge location for any of that yet. Where's the bed and banks permit if they're discharging? And now, the city of Corpus Christi wants the county commissioners to approve a 13-mile emergency pipeline, because what they want to do is not use that temporary bed and banks permit. They don't want to discharge into the river anymore for one reason, because they're constantly out of compliance, or they will be. So they want to capture that water from that 13-mile pipeline, and now 2 miles of it or whatever runs west to east across Ed Rochelle. Then they bore under 624. Then they're hitting all these land that used to be fields that this Mostagashi developer owns, and they want to do that and then end up going to the O.N. Stevens plant. And so it's massive fields that he's got land that is subdivisions or development, and it's Mostagashi. So he's gonna sign off. It's the little people that are gonna get caught in the eminent domain, because they're gonna go, oh wait, I don't want you coming across my property. Too bad, eminent domain, don't like it, because it's for the greater good. No, it is not for the greater good. This is a Corpus Christi crisis that Corpus Christi created by neglect. And so now they want an emergency pipeline, because they want their crisis to constitute, that doesn't constitute my emergency. So now you're gonna be, they're gonna be going totally not monitored, because it's gonna go straight from the wells to the pipeline to the plant. There's no testing, right now you can get in a boat and you can go and pull the water as it's coming out of that area, because the water is public land. You can't get on their property, but you can pull that water and send it off for testing. Well, it doesn't matter, because if Tommy Sue goes and tests it, they're gonna say, whatever. You literally have to send it off to a certified lab, but then they're saying, oh, but you're not ASTM certified.
To take the sample.
To take the sample, to properly do it. So again, it's null and void. So what you try to do is go to people like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and say, if you can't get on the property, or you don't want to go that far to subpoena or whatever, go out there in your boat and pull one, because get your ASP, your biologist or whoever, pull the samples and test it.
Yeah.
Well, they don't do it. So you tell me why? Because it's bureaucrats and it's politics and it's funding. And now, and I am I'm a conservative, okay? I'm not gonna tell you I'm a Republican, I'm not telling you I'm Democrat, I'm not telling you I'm a conservative, because I want conservation. And these executive orders that are flying off the shelf to open up our national forests, and all of that land for, again, for more production. You're taking away the employees of the rangers and the park, all the facilities. You're taking all of that away from people. Teddy Roosevelt will be turning over in his grave.
They're doing that right now with the turtle program on
That's
Colorado
exactly
National.
what they're doing. So now, let's go into the data centers part. When my groundwater destroys my well, now my son moved into his brand new home that built behind me on our property. He moved into his house 2 weeks before Corpus made the final announcement that they bought that right property. So now, what does my son have? I don't know. I don't get in this business, but let's just say he's got his well, and let's say he's got a 30-year mortgage. I don't know. Well, maybe it's 20. I don't care, but he's got a mortgage. His well goes dry. He can't live in that house. He doesn't have getting that way. But guess who wants the money? The mortgage company still wants it.
Oh, yeah.
So what are they gonna do? They're gonna come in, your land is worthless without water, and that's what they want. Because when they make that land worthless without water, they're gonna come in and they're gonna buy your land for pennies on the dollar, and you're still not gonna be able to pay that mortgage, so your livelihood is destroyed, and you're gonna have to move away. And guess what? They'll find the water then, because they own the water. And
Yeah, well, they got the money to go deep enough.
And Ed Rochelle doesn't care. He flat told them, it's on a news report, I have it, I understand it says, oh, that mission statement about charitable with libraries and children, that doesn't mean anything. It's as blank can be. Our limitations is the border of Texas. Paul Althede said that. He's the CEO and president of the Ed Rochelle Foundation. They also have the Louise Allen Foundation, which I'm understanding has bought up property across the river from me. So this part of Churchill County, and they have this organization that supposedly helps children without fathers. It's very sketchy, that's my opinion, whatever. But do you know who Louise Allen is? When you look at Mr. Ed Rochelle's bio, starts about, oh, he grew up here, he did this. In 1912, Louise Allen from Tennessee marries Ed Rochelle. So now, they don't have Louise Rochelle Foundation, they do Louise Allen, Louise Nee Allen Rochelle. That was her maiden name. So they fly under the radar. It's still the Ed Rochelle Foundation. Like, take this dog, and you've got all these fleas, and that's what they are. They're fleas on a dog back, and every one of them are parasites. And that's what it is. Shell companies within shell companies within shell companies. You can't find what you need because it's buried. And every one of them make a profit. I think Ed Rochelle, last I checked, $840 million. And they're a charitable foundation. You are required to give X percent, I don't know what the percent is, every year to maintain your nonprofit status. After you give that, I think they give it to the Louise Allen Foundation. So, anyway, you're my brother. Here, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
So, it's just so big, and that's the whole point. So, the welder Evangeline is on hold, but the onus now is going to fall on my 3 well fields all that. And you're talking about 17 counties that are going to be affected, because you've got the Gulf Coast offshore, and you've got this thing called the San Marcos Arch. You know when you go down the beach, and it's like this? This is what your aquifer looks like. So the San Marcos Arch is one of the bigger ones. So all the water runs down about, my expert has said, about like a 30-degree angle. So everything runs to the Gulf. Everything runs to the coast. But when it gets to this, that around San Marcos Arch, doesn't go over, it has to be recharged and get more water enough to come over than that water. But anyway, so once it gets past this, now everything's coming down here, but if you're not getting recharged, it's going to run out. And you've got your Chicote and your Evangeline are the ones that are most water, for groundwater that we drink. Then it gets lower, and the more layers you get, the more saline, brackish that it gets. But then you come in and you have all of these disposal injection wells that can't put in pits anymore. Ballard Superfund site. So they go in and they drill these injection wells, and they inject their waste products down into the deeper aquifers. So now everybody's saying you need to go to the Frio or whatever aquifer layer. It's all the Gulf Coast aquifer, but it's different layers. So now they're saying you need to drill down deeper to get down into that. What? But now you've got this at 6,000 feet, 4,000 feet, they're injecting waste product down into that groundwater to get rid of it. So now you've got it all floating around, and you know, hydrocarbon is it floats. I mean, there's water and that. But then when you start stirring it up, you get this emulsion, and you're sucking that up. You start doing your research on disposal injection wells, and then you start looking at these old wells that are supposed to be plugged. They plug them with what? T-shirts, cottonseed, you know, whatever. And then the whole material that the casing is made of over the years has corroded. So you're talking about railroad commission that does nothing. You're talking about pipelines come in that do nothing.
And what you're hitting on is something that we've all dealt with through here in the city, because how many times have we had to do water boils? How many times have we found out that millions of gallons of water is being lost and they don't know where it's at? But you want to put these guys in charge of $1 billion plant.
Yeah, but they're going to have to own, maintain, and operate.
And they have zero experience doing that when they can't even properly function stuff that they've already been doing for decades.
Can you?
It doesn't make sense.
Are there 9 people on the council?
Yeah, I think.
Is there one expert for water on there? Is there one scientist? Is there one? No. Thank you. No. Are there any industrial company owners or past owners?
Yes. There's 2 or 3 of them that are
real estate
what I consider lobbyists.
Are there any title company owners? Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is there? Why are 9 people listening to XH2O put on this dog and pony show presentation? Because that's what we called them every time we did it. And now what we did is our treatment was we tried different contracts, and this is what we can do for you, and this is what, and we all had, you had to meet spec. That's the job of the company that's trying to sell you their services. But you got 9 people that they don't know what the heck you're talking about. They're just nodding their head. Oh, that's right. Oh, you can do that? Really? Now you've got this far field study. Well, how far out is this far field study? Because we're still doing a far field study on something that we've been saying, this ain't the right place. Just quit studying. I think the study has beat the dead horse. Stop.
Yeah.
Inner Harbor is bad. I don't like Harbor Island. I don't like 1 mile is not enough. Being on other people's property, whether you buy it or lease it, is not. And I'm probably thinking they're probably leasing it. Most of these people aren't selling that land. You know, They ain't selling that to Corpus Christi. They gonna keep it, because they'll turn around and boot Corpus off and lease it to somebody else. I mean,
needless to say, there is a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of hidden agendas, a lot of dark money.
mm-hmm.
And if you are not part of the solution, guys, you are part of the problem.
You're contributing to the problem.
And when it comes full circle, because last year, like I said, go back through my videos. You will see me here. Me and Rachel and me and other people have been talking about this for over a year now. We told you this was coming. We told you. We're telling you again. But now it's getting worse because those things we told you about last year are already been put in place. The bills have gone up. My taxes have gone through the roof. I mean, it was so bad, it made the news.
I sold my childhood home because I didn't get any exemptions because my homestead's out in Blunder. At my childhood home, which Hurricane Celia took the house. My father and grandfather built the garage and workshop that's still standing, and so we're talking 1958. But I sold my childhood home because my taxes were like $3,000, $4,000 on and I used to walk down to the river because I lived over there in the Annaville area off of on Up River Road between like Hart Road and Calico. I would walk down to this place and I'd go crabbing, and I'd see like redfish. One time so I saw a couple of sharks that had died because they're making their way up, so that's still kind of brackish going up before you get to the Bonnie Park and the saltwater dam. But I used to go and catch the heck out of crabs. I'd take that bucket home and give them to my mom. God bless her. I couldn't clean a crab today if I had to, because I just handed them to her and she would clean and cook those crab for me. But now you're scared to death about doing that. That the taxes are so much that, and a young man bought it. Did not meet him, but I know from just talking through closing, he's a single young man, and he's there, and it's a great house. The water in the city is expensive. It ran me like $100 a month, and I didn't even have anybody in there. But my electricity, the house is so well built, my electricity averages $70 a month.
Jeez.
So it's a great home and a great location, huge old trees. But what happens when that man doesn't have any water? And he just bought his house, and he's a young man. But again, out where I am, it's unimproved land. There's no real zoning. They don't listen. You go to the commissioner's court and they're going, oh, well, we can't do anything. They could put a slaughterhouse out there and there's nothing we can do about it.
But when you do something on your, oh, hold on, let me step in.
Yeah, oh my gosh, Tommy Sue, you slaughtered that pig out there. What are you going to do? Oh, but let's build, and I'm not against data centers. I'm not against solar panels. But there's a place for them. Why are you putting data centers, which require massive cooling, in one of the hottest areas of South Texas, or even of the United States? I mean, what they're putting data centers in Arizona? Oh, it's a dry heat. It's 104. When they say, oh, it's a dry heat. Oh, really? You mean like an oven? But to me, data centers should be either out in the water or in the Arctic. Maybe people don't like to be out there. Military bases are out there in remote locations, and they're out there and they don't see anybody. They might as well be astronauts. But you know what? Too bad. Find the people that want it. Just because you can't wear your penny loafers and get your Starbucks on the way to work, that is not my problem. But you sucking on my water, the ammonia plant coming out between Robstown and Calallen. Oasis Water District number 3 has told them, sorry, we're not going to give you the water. We can't afford to give you the water. We don't have enough to provide. What'd they say? That's okay, we'll drill our own groundwater wells, because there's no groundwater district to stop us. So again, you've got this massive ammonia plant that the permit was denied. Well, now they just reapply. And every time you want to protest, it can cost money. So what they do, they go, okay, well, that money's nothing to them because it's costing me money or whatever. But when that one goes away, they just wait a little bit of time and they apply again. And TCEQ allows that to happen. They have reapplied for a permit. So the same people fighting that are having to fight it all over again. It's a never-ending war.
Well,
And your politicians, you know what the first thing they worry about when they take office? Getting reelected. That is their number one goal. What do I need to do to get reelected?
and that is where we have strength, guys. We need to pay attention to what they're doing, because I'll be honest, I'm guilty of this. I'll speak for myself. We elect people into office on the hopes that they do what's right while they are in office to represent me, that I shouldn't have to be bird dogging them. I shouldn't have to be, okay, I gotta go to this next city council meeting because, you know, I don't trust them to do their job. Honestly, the only time we need to go up there is when we need help with something that has maybe been overlooked slightly, or what we feel. You know what I mean? We shouldn't have to be on them every single week to do the right thing.
When you get up in the morning to go every day, if you sell me a half-ass rod, you think I'm gonna be appreciative? Now I'm gonna tell you, you sell me a rod, and that's a great, beautiful rod. If it don't catch fish, whose fault is that? Okay, let's not go there.
Mine, they still blame.
Yeah,
They still get blamed.
Okay, but I'm gonna say, man, you need this is a great rod, and it's so so pretty too, whatever. I don't catch fish worth of shit, but it's a great rod.
I love using
But
it. Yeah.
if you only do it halfway, I'm gonna be the first one to say, wow, I paid a lot of money, and then I went out there and the handle came off in my hand right when I had those state winning fish. Of course you did. Got away, so now I know it's a state winner. But that's the whole point. These people do not put pride into what they're working. They think, what's in it for me? What is in it for me? And someone's gonna find something that's in it for them. If you do this for me, I can do this for you. That's not the way. From the smallest city council up to the president should get up every morning and say, what is the right thing to do?
When nobody is looking.
Yeah. That's the whole thing about integrity, doing the right thing when no one's looking.
What you need, boss?
The other one.
Okay. Well, let me
Yeah,
close
no,
this
you're
up, because
fine.
I know we're
Yeah.
gonna have to do some digging. But
And I can't find that map, but it shows map, and I'll send it to you for you. And it says map, and it has all these areas. And in Texas, right here, Gulf Coast, that part of Texas, it's brown. That is the highest concentration of arsenic in our groundwaters.
when she can find that, we will post it here, guys.
And they're
Okay?
safe unless you disturb it.
them. Yeah.
And turbulence disturbs it. And these people don't care. And here's when, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Damn, that's deep. That is deep. And I do want to thank you for taking the time, driving
Oh,
down
no,
here to come
I wasn't
here.
expecting it. You kind of caught me off guard. I may have gotten my hair permed or something. Yeah, But I'm not here for me. I'm not gonna live to see the progress I want. But
Okay.
this is for my kids, my grandkids, and I'm hoping they're gonna provide great grandkids along that. I'm gonna, like I say, we've been here since, my husband's family since the early 1820s, and we've been done just fine. It's when the bureaucrats get involved and the big and rich entities want to get big and richer. Because when you have these people, I've known of the Welders all my life. They're all the way up into Victoria. My grandfather what he called rode the fences for the welders, for poachers, because he was law enforcement. But they've gotten too big because now they go, well, we want to make money for our heirs.
Yeah.
So we don't care. We're going to sell this water because that makes us richer. They don't care about if they drain their neighbors. And then you've got them all. They're all in it together, and it's sad because you've got some of them that vote no.
Mm-hmm.
But with some of these heirs, when every one of them get a vote, and the ones all living way away from us are all voting because they just want that royalty check,
Yeah.
then it's the ones that are still living in the community that have to face the people every day, and they voted no, but their vote didn't count because. And then you get your non-profits in. Like I say, think of a dog and fleas on a dog back, and those fleas are the parasites. And like I say, we're on the menu.
Well, I definitely refuse to be on the menu, guys. So
Yeah.
again, there's a lot of information out there.
We have to stand up.
We have to stand up. We have to stand united. Because again, guys, the few that are trying to sell out our city are winning because we refuse to stand united. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hard Life Albert Sartuche, and again, I forgot your name.
Tommy Sue. Boy named Sue. Tommy Sue. But I'm not a boy.
Thank you very much for coming, and you have a blessed day.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.